My name is Anthony Arnold. I live in Santan Valley, Arizona with my dad, in a house that has been adapted for my power wheelchair. It's a peaceful community, about 45 minutes outside of Phoenix. I enjoy living here. It's the first time in my life, I feel I'm somewhere where I truly belong. I have a lot of interests, and I also have two jobs. I work for the Prent Karomich company providing tech support for AAC devices, and I work for the RERC on AAC preparing educational materials like this presentation. I use an Accent 1400 to communicate, so I bring special skills and knowledge to both of these jobs. Getting to where I am now was not always easy. I had to learn how to communicate effectively with others and how I could combine my talents with my interests to have the career of my dreams. I like to believe my transition to adulthood, independent living, and employment started to happen on the day my parents learned of my diagnosis of cerebral palsy. It is important to start the needed educational and rehabilitation activities at a very early age to achieve the outcome you want. In this presentation, I would like to share my journey, and talk about the people, activities, and AAC technology that has contributed to where I am today. I have a safe place to live that I love, I do activities I enjoy, I can get many of the services I need, and I have good friendships and relationships. I have been fortunate, but I have also planned and worked hard. I have worked to surround myself with good people, and I made changes when things were not right in my life. I would like to talk to you about what you can do as teachers and speech-language pathologists to support all children, and adults, in working towards their dreams. I was born with cerebral palsy on May 22, 1977. My parents began noticing differences between me and my other cousins around the age of 6 months old. I wasn't developing at a similar rate. My parents began taking me to doctors and specialists, and I received my diagnosis of cerebral palsy at age 1. At first, my family lived in Esmond, North Dakota, where there were not many rehabilitation and special education services. We were driving 2.5 hours for doctor's appointments. After a while, my parents determined it would be better for me to attend a special education preschool in Grand Forks, North Dakota, so we moved. There's never a perfect time to have a disability, but during this time they were beginning to include children with disabilities in public school settings. In North Dakota, the ARC Upper Valley, a consumer disability advocacy organization, had sued the state of North Dakota. This lawsuit led to the closure of the state school, where those of us with developmental disabilities were often placed in the past. I lived with my parents all through my school years, however my parents and I have always believed that they aren't going to live forever, so I should be in charge of my life as much as possible. At the age of 21, I moved into a wheelchair-accessible townhouse in Grand Forks that I purchased with the help of my parents. It was their hope I would learn how to live independently by making use of personal care services. I have had some great experiences with personal care attendants in the past, specifically with two women, Judy and Rebecca. They both took time to listen and learn how I wanted and needed things to be done. Unfortunately, Judy retired and Rebecca found another job due to the low pay and burnout. There are some challenges when it comes to choosing a PCA. For example, I met with another AAC user a few years ago named Gus. He mentioned how at times he had to adapt to the tastes of his personal care attendants. For example, if his attendant was a vegetarian, Gus was also a vegetarian because it was difficult for him to build up the courage to ask for a steak or McDonald's. I have noticed that I do the same thing at times, even with the television show that my dad may be watching. Adapting to others is nice at times, but people with disabilities need to be ready to speak up at times too. This is why it is so important to have an AAC system with a wide range of vocabulary to accommodate for various wants and needs or even likes and dislikes. but the vocabulary alone is not enough. People need to learn and practice speaking up for themselves. I quit having personal attendant care, primarily because it was hard keeping good help. They only make a maximum of $15/HR. With this kind of wage and the type of responsibility they have, it's tough keeping good help, so my parents often help with my day-to-day activities. I currently live with my father in Santan Valley, Arizona. My dad and I built our wheelchair-accessible house in Santan Valley, Arizona, and we moved here for good in July 2021. I haven't looked back. I like the fact I can go outdoors whenever possible. It has been beneficial in every aspect. I haven't yet tried to attain personal care attendant, PCA, services here in Arizona, but I'm going to need to in the future. I have always had an active life, and part of that has included trying new things. I was one of the first children with disabilities in North Dakota to attend their local public school. Everyone on my school team wanted the best for me, because they wanted inclusion to be a success. I believe I received their very best effort with what they knew at that time. Sure, there's been mistakes, but I have learned to fix and move past them, instead of letting whatever get the best of you. I always had the determination to communicate. At age 2, I was sitting home with my parents, and noticed it was snowing outside. Like with any little kid, I was excited to see snow, but I had no way of saying it. I ended up pointing to the refrigerator and then to the outside window. This took my parents a while to figure out what I was attempting to say. They eventually looked outside themselves, and noticed it was snowing. Shortly afterwards, they were telling my therapists at the rehab hospital. They decided to introduce a communication board with 7 pictures to me. As you can see, it was pretty basic. It is funny to think about what I could, and could not, say with just 7 words. Again, I think everyone was doing the best they could with what they knew at that time. I had a number of different communication boards in my early years. They typically were designed around my educational needs, such as including the alphabet and numbers. They typically included classmates, teachers and therapists' names as well. I was introduced to my first high-tech communication device in grade 2, when I was 7 years old, and it had a great impact in helping me express myself. The system used MinSpeak. I would learn icon codes to retrieve the vocabulary I needed. Receiving this training was critical to learning a complex system like MinSpeak. There was a lot to learn in those early years, learning both MinSpeak codes and how to read and spell, but now a word completion feature on my AAC device helps me have the best of both worlds. I believe a good communication device allows someone to learn more, expand their capabilities to accomplish more, and provides the ability to express themselves, to make their opinions known. I now use a variety of communication devices, including an Accent 1400 for face-to-face communication, and an iPad with word prediction software for writing on the computer and for Facebook. I was fortunate to have had a communication device since 2nd grade, and I must say it really allowed my teachers and parents to not only educate me, but to prepare me for independent living and employment someday. Communication allowed me to express my opinion, to make decisions, to have an impact on my world. I have known people with developmental disabilities, who haven't gotten the opportunity of having communication partners, and they unfortunately develop a passive personality. It was nice to learn how to communicate and make decisions in my life during the school years instead of thinking it would be something I would learn after high school graduation. This allowed me to focus on independent living and attaining some sort of employment in the years after high school. In my early years, I can remember being read to a lot. I really loved books and stories. I could use my communication system to talk about the books, but my teachers struggled to think about how to teach me to read. They found it complicated because most kids learning to read can speak. I had difficulties with reading for quite a while. I sometimes wonder if things would have been better if I had had more reading instruction when I was young, but they did the best they could with what they knew at that time. Now there are reading instruction programs that are adapted for children who have difficulty with speech, and ways that children can learn to read while also using their AAC device to communicate. Throughout my years of using various communication boards and communication devices, I have learned that the gift of communication continues on giving, and enhances the quality of one's life in every aspect including education, independent living, medical need, and socialization. Once someone attains a communication system, it's important to make it available 24/7 in all environments, wherever they need a voice. You can't make it just a school or therapy thing, or you will see little progress, if any. I enjoy what I am doing today, but I did not have the best transition from high school to adulthood. My high school tried to implement an independent living class my junior year where we took a few field trips out into the community to places such as the grocery store or bank. They even had us experience arranging and taking public transportation. These were some important activities, but more was needed. One of the problems with this transition program was the lack of coordination between my school and the life I would live after school. The school did invite outside agencies to my IEP meeting at the end of my junior year. The problem was not that they had these agencies come, but that they did not warn us or say what agencies were coming. There were 12 people in the room, but mostly they just listened and did not say anything. If we would have known this beforehand, we could have prepared questions, and we could have had a great meeting. I was talking about this with another AAC user, and they said keep pushing, it's the only way of getting services. Back then, my mindset wasn't nearly as advanced. If it was now, I would have taken the bull by its horns. One of the amazing opportunities one had during high school was through the Do It program, which stands for Disabilities, Opportunities, Internet Working and Technology. This program originally received a major portion of their funding from the National Science Foundation. They wanted to get high school students with disabilities exposed to math and sciences, with the main aim of going to college to pursue these careers. I spent 2 summers at the University of Washington participating in the Do It program. I lived in the dormitories while attending various activities during the 2-week period. I was first introduced to the internet and email here. The internet has opened up a lot of doors for people with disabilities, from education to employment to socialization. Thanks to modern-day technology, the playing field is more accessible for everyone. Do It is still going strong with a good portion of scholars going to school and or working in related fields. For me, it was a great jumping off point for the job I have had in computer technology, again, an investment delivering an outcome. During high school, my younger brother, John, started working delivering newspapers in our neighborhood. I was a little bit jealous of him receiving a paycheck, and not me. I waited for that following summer, where I started advocating to be taken to the local job services agency to find out what I could do as a job. My parents finally took me to job services, but I needed to do my own communicating. I was eventually placed in a job training program for youth, and got placed working at a computer store, doing data entry. This was when the internet was getting introduced, so they had me entering their technical manuals and catalogs online. I ended up working at Dakota Systems during high school, mainly on the weekends. I developed a nice working relationship with the family who owned the store. I learned a lot about computers and the internet there. I still communicate with one of the sons who has worked for Microsoft. After I attained my first job at the computer store, I remember how happy I was to pay my fair share of taxes. I felt I was finally contributing to society, and not just taking. These years later, I'm still happy to pay my fair share of taxes. I feel I live here, I might as well contribute. Sure, at times I question where my taxes are going to, but that's how everyone feels. After graduating from high school, I found myself back at Job Services, where they again placed me at the Liberty at the University of North Dakota cataloging books, something I was quite good at thanks to my previous technical skills. A position there eventually did open up, so I applied and they interviewed me. They agreed I knew how to do the job, but they were uncomfortable with the amount of support I would at times need as far as transferring books and carts. So I did not get the job. I sometimes wonder if things would have been different if there had been someone on staff who was willing to act as an advocate for me. For example, one of the directors of the library had multiple sclerosis, and they were assisting her all the time. Unfortunately, no one in my family or circle of friends worked at the library, and I did not have someone in the library who could help adapt the work. After leaving the library, I started working for the Prent Karomich Company as a remote troubleshooter for the technical service department. I have been very successful at this job. They have trained me on all the communication devices, and I have been answering technical service calls on the weekends for the past 20 years. Since joining the PRC family, my life has improved greatly. Being able to witness my success in helping different customers has really encouraged me to try different things throughout my life. I have always wanted to help somebody else experience the power of communication, something I have been able to do since my touch talker days in grade 2. To me, it's nothing else besides being neat and cool to see somebody communicate with whatever communication device it might be, because without a communication device we wouldn't be able to communicate. I find it so rewarding when I call a parent who needs to reboot, to do some programming or whatever, and they receive a call from an actual communication device user explaining whatever steps they need to follow to get the device to do what they want it to do. I am also now part of the training and dissemination team for the RERC on AAC. In this role, I will help future teachers and speech-language pathologists learn how to support communication for all of their students. Teachers and SLPs have played a big role in helping me get where I am today. I am excited to be a part of helping them learn the skills they will need to work with students and families. Living a full adult life means having access to needed services, and being a part of the community. In North Dakota, I started working with trainers at the local gym. They developed a fitness program for my whole body. When I was attending, I was making remarkable progress both physically and emotionally. Seeing me lift weights really boosted my self-confidence. I also became friends with a lot of the members at the gym and they encouraged me. It was like a family atmosphere. We have even done things outside the gym, such as going to coffee or a restaurant. I have even gone to funerals when a member has died. In Arizona, I haven't yet found a personal trainer, but it would be nice getting back into physical fitness. Mental health services have been very important to me, but this is a tricky topic for people who use AAC. I'm willing to acknowledge I have been dealing with mental health issues my entire life. During my childhood, I would at times have mood swings, but it wasn't anything worth addressing. In middle school, they did send me to talk to someone after I started playing with knives, and saying I was very unhappy. Now with thinking back on it, I could have been seeking attention. I never really wanted to do anything I would regret later. I was sent to talk to someone about this when I was in middle school. I stopped going to therapy for a while, then I started back up again after my parents' divorce. Sending an AAC user to therapy is a little bit tricky because of the time factor involved. While my AAC device provides a quick source of communication, It isn't always fast enough, especially when working with professionals, who at times only have minutes to see you. I have started writing notes beforehand, listing the topics I want to address. They have been appreciative, knowing how difficult communication can sometimes be for me. At times, I have emailed the note before I physically arrive. This arrangement has worked most of the time. For those of you thinking about obtaining mental health services, I would encourage you to do this. Other things can help. For everyone, I think feeling like you are making a difference in other people's lives, and connecting with other people, is really important. I went to a mental health professional for a few months, and it really had an impact on my thinking and processing. Moving to a new state has meant that I have left a lot of friendships and family behind, which has been hard. I have a huge Facebook following, and many are close friends. Social media has made the playfield more accessible for everyone. I have been on Facebook for 15 plus years, and I have to honestly say it has closed the communication gap between people and me. I feel we are finally communicating on the same level. People have forgotten I have a communication disability, and this inclusion has been truly liberating. If I am honest though, meeting new people and making new friends can be hard in a new community. Social media is good for short exchanges, but I like a good face-to-face conversation, and going places with people. I have achieved a lot in my life, but all of it is based on communication. Communication is a very important element for employment and independent living, so you want to start laying the groundwork as early as possible. My mother usually tells parents to picture their children in 5 years, 10 years, and long. We should ask ourselves, what do we want a child to achieve that will be beneficial throughout their lives? My early AAC displays and technology played a huge role in me learning that I had a voice, and that I needed to use it. My Accent 1400 from the Prent Garomich company is my primary communication device, which I use for work and outside communications, when I need access to words at a fast rate. For most writing activities, when I need a big vocabulary, I use my iPad Pro with word prediction software, and surprisingly I'm using Google Docs. I know word prediction is at times faster than navigating through icons, especially for words I don't use very often. By using word prediction, I'm able to say exactly what I want to say, and capture a thought before it's accidentally forgotten. With the help of MinSpeak, literacy, and my AAC device, every aspect of my life has benefited from unlimited communication. I could have never been educated, and now employed, without having the ability to communicate. The most important thing that my AAC device has ever said to anybody is that whatever you may want to have, a job, a house, or whatever, only happens if the individual with the AAC device actually turns up the volume and begins speaking. Nothing is going to happen until then, because people can't and don't have the time to guess what you want. And the vocabulary that comes in a device, or is added to a device by someone else, will never be enough. It is important to learn to read and spell. Back in elementary school, my special education teacher tried to add vocabulary to support me in various subjects such as science and social studies. While this may sound like a wonderful idea, she quickly found out how impossible it was to keep up with the class. Through my experiences with using communication devices and vocabularies, I have learned it's impossible to develop whole vocabularies using MinSpeak sequences for every activity a person may participate in. We can only prepare for frequently used words, but a lot of the important things we need to say are hard to predict in advance. This is why it's important to incorporate a spelling and word prediction features on communication devices. When I got going on word prediction, things really took off. I could just enter the first letters of a word, and then choose from the predictions that appeared. Using this feature helped to improve my reading and spelling as well. In elementary school, I was fortunate to have a resource room teacher who was determined to teach me how to read come hell or high water. That is what all of my best teachers have done. They set ambitious goals, but they also worked hard to help me reach them. Reading is a necessary skill to attain if you're hoping to attain employment someday, and being able to spell, when it is needed, is the only way to be sure that a person can truly say whatever they want. My programmed vocabulary helps with words I use a lot. Spelling helps me talk about the people and activities that are the most important to me, and that change over time. Over the past years I have made some important decisions in my life. With getting on medical marijuana and moving to Arizona, my writing and my ability to express myself has skyrocketed. Half of it is that I'm finally somewhere I truly love. There's no telling what tomorrow will bring. I have improved the quality of my life over 500%, and part of that has been that I am now more comfortable making and acting on decisions. Some people have found it challenging to watch me make these decisions, but this is what I have needed to do. It has been pretty amazing, but I feel like where I am now has been built on lessons I have learned over the past years, the importance of having a voice, of working as part of a team to reach important goals, and always being ready to speak up when change is needed. And this is my challenge for you as teachers and speech-language pathologists. How can you help every child learn to communicate, including reading and spelling? And how can you create strong teams, while also helping the person who uses AAC establish their own voice? Where I am at now is thanks to the investments and things we did decades ago. You can't build a great house without laying a strong foundation. For me, my foundation has been the communication and literacy skills that are my voice, and the people who have supported me in learning to make decisions about how I live my life.